Alright, let me start off this review by saying straight up that I definitely believe this game would be awesome as soon as it was announced. And if you were one of the few people who did, this is your moment to shine in the comments below. Let's chat. Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, which is published by the same company that made the other Marvel mess, was let down by its marketing. Eidos Montreal was saying all the right things: single player, story driven, no microtransactions, and no XP boosts. But it was hard to believe that this game would launch as a AAA game with the same caliber as games such as Spider-Man on the PS4. Combat looked wonky, the characters and dialogue felt cheesy, and Marvel's Avengers still lingered in our minds. I had hope, I really did, but I was still pessimistic about the game. Fast forward to a week after launch and I feel the exact same way I did when I first watched James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy. My exact words were, "What the flack did I just watch, and can I have some more?" I love this game. I love almost every minute of it except the icky bits, which we will talk about later. The game does so many things, some small, some big, some amazing, some not as amazing, but as a package, it's Christmas. Is it worth the price of admission? That depends on your definition of value. But if you think Marvel's Spider-Man is worth your coin, this game is worth it. You play as Peter Quill, also known as Star-Lord, the leader of this ragtag of outlaws called the Guardians of the Galaxy. Peter is from Earth, but his dad is from space. This is not an origin story for him or the team, but the game does delve into the lives of Peter and the team before they met. This is a third-person action game where you control one character who controls the other three. Peter can issue commands to his teammates to perform combat moves and takedowns, similar to the system used in the Final Fantasy VII Remake, except you cannot control your other squad mates. I was personally fine with this approach. I liked the idea of Peter being the conduit to which we experience this entire game. It gives it focus, but in regards to the combat, it made it a little too simple. During the course of the campaign, you will be thrust from one planet to another, more so than the movies did at the very least. This is absolutely not a negative because of how spectacular these locations are. The first area you set your feet on is just breathtaking. This is one of the best looking games I've played this year. The visualization of space is as glorious as it was in Mass Effect 2. Just no lens flare. The color palette here is way brighter than in BioWare games, which is not a complaint since it matches the tone of the other aspects of the game. That tone is light-hearted and quirky, mixed in with quiet, heartfelt moments.
It's just it, we're not pirates. We're legally incorporated heroes for hire.
Yeah, that's right. You checked those records, Buckethead. Novacore licensing permit 67398-2.
Gardeners of the Galaxy?
What? No.
There are some light RPG elements mixed in there as well. Throughout the course of the campaign, you will be given the opportunity to make certain decisions that are implied to have real consequences later in the campaign. In one example, you deliver a monster to Lady Hellbender, and you can choose either Groot or Rocket to be that monster. The one that I chose led to the deal falling apart as soon as it began, but I've seen playthroughs where people chose the other Guardian, which led to cutscenes and events that I did not encounter. The consequences were immediate, although some are only realized hours later in the game.
I want the Guardians incinerated!
What is that? She's cheating!
If this is not enough, there are a ton of puzzles and collectibles that you can get throughout the campaign to upgrade your weapons, as well as clothes that you can collect to change the look of your character. Exactly like in Marvel's Spider-Man and Miles Morales, but unlike Marvel's Avengers, these are not $15. Where this game fails is in the level of polish that is missing from the in-game animations. Peter's movements can be janky sometimes, especially in combat where he flips and general movements look and feel mechanical. A far cry from the smooth transitions you get to experience in the Insomniac Spider-Man games. The lack of polish extends to traversal aspects. There were times where Peter would shimmy across a ledge, and once he got to the end, he just walked back on the ledge, and you can't turn around until you exit the end. A patch could fix that no problems, and these two issues by no means destroy the overall experience. All in all, this game has a lot in it. More wins than losses, but where it absolutely wins is in the characters. the start of the game, you are introduced to Star-Lord, the band, a bunch of rockers in the 70s that have a major influence on a young Peter Quill. Peter is so taken by the band and by the music of that era that it shapes the way he presents himself in present-day space. A decked-out hairdo, leather jacket with Star-Lord branding on the back, and a devil-may-care attitude are the characteristics that define Star-Lord the man. At the start, you are also introduced to Meredith Quill, Peter's mother. Her presence throughout the game is felt not just in the flashbacks Peter experiences every now and then, but how she was the motivation for why the Guardians exist in the first place and how important they are to Peter. Throughout the game, Peter as a character does not evolve too much. Out of all the Guardians, he probably has most of his slack figured out. He has plenty of poignant moments in the game, challenges that he needs to overcome, and plenty of failures that he may or may not admit to. But overall, he is the anchor in the ship that ties all the other Guardians together, acting as a sounding board and a shoulder for the other team members, helping them get through traumas of the past and obstacles in the present. The other 4 Guardians are personalities on their own. Gamora, the deadliest assassin in the galaxy, is way less rigid than her MCU counterpart. She still throws cheap shots at Peter and the team, but she is also comfortable throwing jokes in the midst to lighten the mood. Rocket is probably more like Rocket from the movies, constantly morbid and angry, but you can tell he actually kind of likes hanging out with Peter.
Aren't you a little young for the Corps?
Aren't you a little old for that hairdo?
Drax is Drax. I love Drax.
Holy crap, Drax. You gotta stop doing this, man. It's weird.
And Groot? What a surprise, he laughs. The team dynamic is amazing. There is banter constantly. It is almost a bit too much, but I would rather have it at this level than not have it or have too little of it. It is essential listening, if only to help flesh out each of the Guardians and how they think. This, as well as the conversations you have with the team, adds to the depth of each Guardian where, by the end of the game, you know them, you get them, it all makes sense. 2 out of the 4 Guardians besides Star-Lord get more exposition than the rest, which is understandable because, let's face it, Groot is a treat. Cherish these moments you get to experience with them because they are truly special. I would like to give a special shout out to Mantis. If this version is a reflection of the comic book version of the character, then I'd like to put it on record that James Gunn did her dirty in the movies, and I hope he rectifies that in the 3rd Guardians movie.
Sun-Lord, right? Is it Rockstar?
It's Star-Lord. Rocket, Groot, where are you?
This should not come as a surprise. The game looks amazing. We've seen Eidos Montreal produce some great looking games in the past like Shadow of the Tomb Raider and the Deus Ex franchise. The devs upped the ante this time around. They dipped their hands in the crayon box and pulled out all the colors. There's pink, there's orange, there's white, there's black, there's teal.
You assigned me to the team before you named it. My skin is not green. It's teal.
Teal. What?
You'll be planet hopping throughout the campaign. There will be a bunch of backtracking, but it's fine when the game looks this good. Each location has a distinctive personality. No 2 planets are the same. They range from a quarantine zone with destroyed ships all joined together by a congealed pink substance to a planet that you traverse into towards the core in search of a certain someone. In my Mass Effect 2 video, I praised BioWare for leaning into the heavy color palette to make space feel less like the grayed out atmosphere it was in the first Mass Effect game, and more like what we saw in movies like Star Trek 2009. What Eidos did here was similar, except they dialed it all the way up to 11, making the galaxy fit perfectly with all the colorful people in it. One last point on the visuals. I must give a shout out to the level of precision that was put on ensuring the facial animations and lip syncing matched the dialogue. In all cutscenes, each character did the things with the eyebrows or moved their shoulders the correct way and lip synced perfectly to what they were saying. This is nice to have, let's be honest, but the fact that the developers took the time to do it, I give major props for that. As the saying goes, the majority of communication is nonverbal. This attention to detail adds another pathway for us to better understand and connect with these characters. Not everything is perfect here though. During the one-on-one chat sessions with each of the Guardians, the syncing was fine but not as pronounced as it should have been. It gave the impression that these conversations were done with clenched teeth. It was not a major problem, and I only point it out because it is a stark difference to the other times where lip syncing is done perfectly.
I can be quite forceful.
Peter Quill. I believe she is flirting with me.
So far in this review, I have not had much negative things to say about the game. There are 2 main issues in this game. Combat is one of them, but it is not as bad as it seems. I will put it like this. If combat was lifted from this game and put into something like Marvel's Avengers, it would completely suck. Everything surrounding the game elevates combat to perfectly acceptable status. You control Peter Quill, who has access to his trusty dual blasters, which have a variety of ammunition types that you unlock as you progress through the story. By acquiring XP, you get to unlock abilities for Peter and the team. In Peter's case, you can unlock the ability for him to use the rockets on his boots to hover above the battlefield, as well as the ability to rapidly fire your pistols on an enemy, dealing a massive amount of damage. Peter controls the other Guardians, who have unique abilities and skills. Gamora specializes in dealing massive health damage. Drax, on the other hand, deals a massive amount of staggered damage in a large area. Groot can immobilize enemies or launch them in the air, while Rocket specializes in dealing massive area effect damage using his arsenal of grenades. Later on, each Guardian, including Peter, unlock ultimates, which I will not spoil here, but they fall in line with each character's unique abilities. Then there is the huddle. During my 17-hour playthrough, I've probably used it 15 times. There's a couple of issues with it. First, the button mapping is off. On the Xbox, the LB button opens the panel to control the Guardians. The RB button fires your special ammo, and it can get quite mixed up in the heat of battle. While trying to do one or the other, you accidentally trigger the huddle button and immediately get taken out of combat, leading to the second issue being the cutscene that followed. It is a huddle, as you would expect, where the team come together and you need to figure out how they feel about the fight so far and choose the right words to rev them up. It is okay after the first 3 times, but doing that every single time, not so great.
Solo? It comes from shredding them up in perfect harmony, together. Who's with me? Feel my wrath!
Nice one, Peter!
The huddle provides you and the team, if you choose right, a damage boost and increases ability regeneration, while at the same time it blasts music from Peter's playlist, which is all great. Everything about it is pretty dope, except the cutscene that can slow down the pace of combat. While combat is not the best part of the game, it is not terrible. It goes from bland to very okay after you've unlocked all the abilities and ammo types. You can collect resources around the world to upgrade your weapons and abilities, so there is some dimension to it.
Smooth plan so far.
Hey, at least I'm pulling my weight.
There's not much weight to pull.
A few times during the campaign you are given the controls to the Milano to pilot. It is a rudimentary version of the combat system from Star Fox series. It never overstays its welcome, which is great because it is one of the more janky parts of the game. So the story. Yeah, the story exists, and it is a good story. From the few Guardian-related things that I have watched or read, the story is kinda typical. The team set out on a relatively mundane mission and end up caught in a bigger mess than they bargained for. The pacing is good. After each mission, you get a bit of quiet time back at the Milano, where you can chill, listen to music, and hear the banter from the team and have those one-on-one conversations. These conversations are triggered by finding certain collectibles that have meaning to the Guardians. For instance, you can find an old universal translator, and that sparks a conversation on the ship about potentially finding a language package that the team can use to understand Groot. These quiet moments do a good job of slowing down the game, but not excessively. At all times, you know and feel the weight of the situation at hand. I personally was always eager to get to the next mission, and the game does not skip a beat, even with the pauses in the Milano. It is not overly long. It should take most players on average 15 hours to finish. This may sound short, but it really is not. I think the game had like one mission too much, and that is like the very last boss fight. It was not necessary, especially because of the mission just before, but you may feel differently. The entire experience is presented with a banging soundtrack of original music by Star-Lord the Band, an original soundtrack by Richard Jacques, and a slew of licensed music. The music, which is a cornerstone of the game, is excellent. I am a fan of songs such as Take On Me by a-ha or Everyone's a Winner by Hot Chocolate. They show up when you're back on the Milano, or during some cutscenes, or when you do the huddle. It was great in the movies and it is great here. So, should you play Guardians of the Galaxy? Yes, absolutely. It is nothing even close to what Marvel's Avengers was. If you enjoyed Spider-Man from Insomniac, this will be up your alley. Should you buy Guardians of the Galaxy now at full price? I'm going to say yes. An argument can be made if a 15 to 17 hour game is worth $70 currently, but we'll save that for another video. Personally, I believe it is worth every penny. The amount of effort that went into this game is staggering. You can tell the team at Eidos Montreal wanted to make the perfect Guardians of the Galaxy game they could. And I think they succeeded. When a game like this comes out, we should all get down on our knees and give thanks to the game god, which is why I strongly recommend buying this game so you can have more of them in the future. That is it. That is the review. Thank you for coming and watching. I really do appreciate it. If you enjoyed the video, hitting that like button is a great way to let me know. If you would like to see more videos, you can also subscribe below, but also turn on notifications so you don't miss the next upload. Thanks again for watching, and we will chat in the next one. Cheers.
Aw, hey little guy.